Hello YouTube, this is Chance Paladin, and there's been a lot of buzz about this new, whatever this is. I just call these magic pen ones, but it's an executive order. Uh, I'm not going to get into all of the executive order stuff, because that's way over my head what an executive order actually is, but I do understand a lot of the rest of this. So, this is an ITAR update, which I'm familiar with because I used to work with ITAR and stuff. Military secrets, basically, which military secrets have a very legitimate reason for being safe. Hence, ITAR, International Traffic in Arms. It basically means don't let anybody that's not an American citizen or that doesn't have the proper review or security level or whatever you want to call it, making sure that they don't start doing things like taking pictures of military secrets and manufacturing of armored vehicles and guns and like armor technology. Basically, stuff that if got into the bad guys' hands would jeopardize our military and stuff. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's totally, perfectly common sense stuff originally. So you just do things like make sure you have access controls and make sure that, and physical and also uh, electronic access controls. And things like making sure people don't take cameras into sensitive areas. So I didn't know that this needed to be updated because everybody that I've worked with just simply applied this to electronic stuff and just used common sense and made sure everything was networked off so nobody could get into it. But anyway, it looks like for some reason, and I'll leave that up to everybody else, somebody thought this needed to get updated. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a series, and hopefully I can do this all today, but honestly, this is a really long document, and I'm tired. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this one chapter at a time. So, this isn't going to be chapter 1, this is going to be the intro for this. And then I'll do one chapter as fast as I can. But what I want to do is I want to read through this and try to give some context to it, because reading and this stuff and auditing and trying to re-explain it to other people is like my job. That's my real life, day-to-day job. Whether it's ITAR, CTPAT, all the ISO standards, you name it, AIAG, all those. That's what I do. I take that stuff and then I explain it to people. So that's what I want to do with this. I haven't read this before, so you guys and gals are going to go through the same thought processes as I do, and hopefully this helps explain it. And if not, then we know we have a problem. But I'm not a lawyer. I don't play a lawyer on TV either. I'm like an auditor slash consultant in all these crazy standards. So, anyway. So here we go with the intro. So, summary. As part of the President's Export Control Reform ECR initiative, don't know what that is, but it's not relevant to this discussion. The fact is that it's happening now. It's being proposed now. The Department of State proposes to amend the International ITAR to update the definitions of defense article. We're just gonna... The international traffic and arms regulations is way too much to say over and over and over. So it's just going to be ITAR, and everybody needs to understand international traffic and arms regulation means ITAR. Don't think of it like a something that's like written in stone, like the, thou shall not take pictures of anything. That it's not like that. It's very open to interpretation, and I know that's gonna bother everybody. But the reason why it's open to interpretation is because typically standards are meant to be scalable in a broad sense, because you never know exactly what you're going to be controlling with your standards. So, when you think about ITAR for the rest of this, think about it's vague because you may not know what it's going to get applied to. I know that sounds weird, but your mindsets are going to have to change a little bit from, why don't they just tell us exactly what it's going to be? Well, that's not how standards work. It would be nice if they did, but then it would take a million years. So they're kind of vague. Now, keep that in mind, and then we'll talk about that more later. So, to update the definitions of defense article, defense services, technical data, public domain, export and re-export or retransfer. So when I see public domain, this is my first concern, and I think this is probably everybody's first concern, because meow, that's my cat. He is trying to say the same thing I am, which the problem with public domain is that that's not what ITAR is meant to control. Think of ITAR like something you can put in a building, like a site. And that's how a lot of standards are written. They are like a site control, which would be like a tier 2, and then a tier 1 would be the governance for all of the sites. So some of these could be broken down into tier 1s, and some of these could be broken down into tier 2s, because re-export or retransfer would be like the transmissions, or the upstream, downstream, many communications or data transfers that have to happen. Public domain would be like the tier 2, which means whatever physical location. The technical data would be the actual physical documentation or electronic. And not sure about defense article and defense services. That's what we'll get into later, hopefully, because I'm not 100% sure on that. So we will. But the important thing here, though, is that whenever you don't understand something, that's important, because every single thing, no matter how much you want to skim over it, you should be able to understand. So we're definitely going to be going over that later. So, in order to clarify the scope of activities and information that are covered within these definitions and harmonize the definitions with the Export Administration Regulations, EAR. So yes, I have worked with EAR also, because that's all of our export stuff. With the company that I used to work with, I worked with EAR for years. Thing is, though, is that you're not normally exporting government military secrets. Usually what the United States tries to do is they try to, for their military stuff, they try to export a finished good. But even a lot of those finished goods, people aren't even supposed to see, which is why when certain aircraft crash somewhere, if they can't recover it, they just blow it to smithereens. So I am eager to know how the EAR dovetails into this, especially because public domain. If it's public domain, I don't know how you would have export, because unless you consider the sites are the servers in each of the states or countries. So like the public domain in America is different than the public domain in China in terms of the internet, which is funny because obviously this is talking about the internet, but I've noticed that I don't see it anywhere so far. So, to the extent appropriate, additionally, the department proposes to create definitions of required. They should probably define shall while they're at it, but we'll find out. Technical data that arises during or results from fundamental research, release, retransfer, and activities that are not exports, re-exports, or retransfers, in order to clarify and support the interpretation of the revised definitions that are proposed in this rulemaking. So, I'm sure they would like to create definitions of required, but I bet you that that's not going to happen. And fundamental research, release, retransfer, and activities that are not exports or retransfers. This basically means anybody who's not currently doing business that there isn't already an agreement with. So really, this is the issue right here. Fundamental research, release, retransfer. But I don't... I guess I would only see this with new items, or items that people haven't really figured out yet. Technical data. That's the technical data thing that everybody was talking about. That usually means drawings. It's usually something that you'd actually need to recreate the product, like dimensional results or failure modes. And failure modes with military equipment's like huge, because the good guys need to know how to maintain their gear, but the bad guys would want to know how to break the gear. So you could see how technical data is really important. But really what they need to do is quantify technical data, hence why back here, technical data is brought up. So, the department proposes to create new sections detailing the scope of licenses, unauthorized releases of information, and the release of secured information, and revises a section on exports of technical data to U.S. persons abroad. So yeah, the release of secured information. Now, this is interesting because there's already tons of uproar right now. Chavez and some other guys were just, and all different people from the media just had this huge conference about how all the information that they have not been able to get. But I can't see that being technical data. But maybe it has to do with defense articles / defense services. I don't know, maybe defense services means military and contractors. I don't know. Services provided maybe by the Department of Defense. I don't know. I'm just speculating. So, but definitely the release of secured information just seems weird, because I don't know why they would mention secure information and technical data at the same time. I don't know. There's a bunch of information you protect under contract just because you don't want people to know how much you're paying for things and stuff, but I'm trying to think of what kind of secured information there'd be, but we'll get to it. The the issue though being that they could pretty much say whatever they wanted was secure, and then it would become secure, but there'd have to be a way to secure it. So we will get there. Again, I'm pretending as if if you're trying to make the internet ITAR compliant, I suppose that's how I'm trying to see this as, because the internet is tons and tons and tons of businesses all chained together. So that's how I'm looking at it. So okay, let's keep going. Finally, the department proposes to address the electronic transmission and storage of unclassified technical data via foreign communications infrastructure. And see, this starts to make sense. So if you imagine two... hold on a sec. Alright, I apologize for that. I was trying to come up with a cool way to draw this, but I need to work on that a little bit more. And I'll start that for the next part. So, the department proposes to address electronic transmission storage of unclassified technical data. So, via foreign communications. What this is kind of code word for, or whatever you want to call it, is foreign communications would be like servers outside the United States. So, there's a lot of technical, how do I say this? Technical observations that need to be made. That's not the right word. Technical, I can't think of the right word. But there are challenges, and so you have to make some conscious decisions when you do that to make sure that it is as secure as possible, especially with all the hacking stuff that's been going on allegedly lately. So, this rule making proposes that the electronic transmission of unclassified technical data abroad is not an export, provided that the data is sufficiently secured, to prevent access by foreign persons. So, what this means is that let's pretend I'm American number 1 and American number 2 is in Italy or something, and he's got his, secured, approved. Considerations, that's what I was looking for. So all the considerations have been made where, even though I'm in America, which we'll say America's ITAR. Let's pretend that America's ITAR, all of it. Bloop. Okay. But now American B is in, I don't know, let's trying to think of a sort of neutral country. They're in, let's say they're in Iraq and they're doing training, because that's really common right now. They're an American, so technically they are ITAR. However, they're in let's say a non-ITAR country. Maybe they're in an ITAR location. Maybe they aren't. So you have to think about that, and they're probably going to get into that here. But they've got a laptop, and the laptop could be ITAR compliant, and it could have all the tunneling software. Everybody did their homework before they left and made sure the person was not going to connect in a way that his information could be intercepted. So it has to be like super encrypted, 512 or whatever, some huge encryption. Pre-shared keys, whatever considerations they do. they want to make sure that in here they're not calling it exporting when it's going to in American, basically. So that's why they're saying, no, we're not going to call it an export. It's not going to a foreign person, so it's not an export. It's just technical data moving back and forth. The person just happens to be outside the United States. That's how I read that as. Okay, so additionally, this proposed rule would allow for the electronic storage of unclassified technical data abroad, provided that the data is secured to prevent access by parties unauthorized to access such data. Now, I don't understand this part because I don't see the issue with there being unclassified technical data anywhere. Public domain. So I could definitely see why this is related to the internet, because this, didn't used to be an issue. People carry around microfilm, or I'm trying to think of how spies would move, data around if they're going to defect or whatever, or come over and steal stuff, and have spy cameras, obviously with cell phones and very, very, very high capacity USB hard drives that you can plug in, immediately power, and immediately download gigs and gigs, and fit it in a shoe or a pocket, or eat it, or whatever it is spies do. I don't know. I'm not a spy. So, but if it was unclassified technical data, I don't understand what the issue is. I think we'll get into technical data below, but so far in my mind, I'm only considering that drawings, anything with measurements. But again, the problem is, if we're talking about firearms, the schematics for a Mossberg 500, which I happen to have right here, because, hello, if you've ever had to take your Mossberg 500 apart, you want to make sure that you've got the drawings for it. I guess that's unclassified technical data, but it's not sensitive data. But and so maybe they're gonna start classifying that. So we got to see how the classifications are gonna go. So da 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 da. But it's not like a little kid can hurt themselves with drawings unless they get a paper cut. And I have a nasty paper cut on my finger right now, and I think it's a cardboard cut. Anyway, the revisions contained in the proposed rule are part of the Department of State's retrospective plan under executive order first submitted So, don't know what that means. I'm not touching that part. I'm just looking at the standards, the regulatory, the standards, and everything. So, someone else is going to have to look up the legalese. I'm not as interested in that. I'm trying to work through what this actually is. So dates, this day, accept comments on this proposal, August 3rd. So, this is why everyone's saying you have to get in your comments right away. This isn't a lot of time. It's especially not a lot of time when nobody understands it. Nobody understands it because these standards are vague on purpose. So, it's not to confuse people. It's open to interpretation, so it's scalable. The reason why people are concerned is when it comes to the internet, scalable can be very dangerous. You don't want to apply things to the whole internet because people are way too emotional and uneducated when things come to internet-wide rules. That's why everyone likes it to be just the Wild Wild West, because it's a lot easier that way. So, anyway, so we have until August 3rd to decipher this and try to come up with something to say. Addresses interested parties may submit 60 days. Okay, email, internet. Okay, comments received after that date may be considered, but considerations cannot be assured. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with the actual standard. Neither does that. Okay. Supplementary information. The Director of Defense Trade controls U.S. Department of State administers the ITAR. The items subject to jurisdiction of ITAR, i.e. defense articles, defense services, are identified on the ITAR's U.S. munitions list. So, I'm wondering if this whole thing basically is a defense article, and whoever would be carrying it out is a defense service, military contractors or whatever. With few exceptions, items not subject to the export control jurisdictions of the ITAR is subject to the jurisdiction of the EAR, which is, that's normal, which includes the Commerce Control List, the CCL, administered by the Bureau of Industry and Security. I haven't worked with the BIS before that I can recall, but man, they've got so many acronyms, it's hard to remember. But I usually worked with Customs Border Protection under the Department of Homeland Security, but this definitely does not look like it comes from the Department of Homeland Security, but I'd have to look it up. I mean, there's so many, and they all have different weird reporting structures. Anyway, U.S. Department of Commerce, both ITAR and ER impose license requirements on exports and re-exports, yes. Items not subject to the ITAR, the exclusive licensing jurisdiction. If any other set of regulations are subject to the EAR, which is normal. Pretty much everything is subject to the EAR because those are the exporting agreements. BIS is concurrently publishing comparable proposed amendments to the BIS companion rule to the definition of technology required. Peculiarly responsible published results of fundamental research, export, re-export, release, and transfer in country in the EAR. They really shouldn't even be trying to roll this out until they have defined those. I would if I was reviewing this document officially for somebody, as if they would listen to my feedback, the first thing I would say is they can't release this for real review until they define these, because published technology, you have to define what that means. Because if published only means drawings and schematics, then all they have to do is put some kind of logo on all the drawings that they don't want released. And so things that I'm sure we could all agree on, like tank armor, things that are super top secret that we would never want to get in the hands of our enemies, like failure mode analysis for MRAPs or some, I don't know. They could just mark those drawings, which they probably already do, and then just tell everybody, if you see these drawings, then you know what you're looking at, and you should know if they can get out or not. And then they can basically make the whole country ITAR compliant, and people like all these firearms YouTube channels would actually be part of the solution instead of becoming an issue. Be right back. Alright, so just checking through this. Had to step away a second. Yes. Yeah, I have the very distinct feeling that whoever wrote this was not a bad person, didn't have bad intentions, and was just writing this to cover drawings going out across the internet, which is why they keep bringing up words like published and release. These are all document control words. They're all document control buzzwords. If you could imagine, if you had a bunch of drawings or patents or something, and you knew that if they could get out, your enemy could either copy the item very, very easily or exploit its weakness, you'd understand that you would want to very, very tightly control this. So, but if that's what that means, then some of this that I don't understand, like export and re-export, so I'm thinking that that means physical goods. So hopefully they explain it. So, let's see. Yeah, this is going to take quite a while, so I'm going to break this up. That's going to be the end of the intro to this, and I'm going to try to do these in 1 hour blocks because this is a lot of information. So, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you're new to the channel, I know I cover a lot of different stuff. So, but one of the things I do is this, obviously. So, like, subscribe, and tell your friends, ask me questions, and I will get to this next part as fast as I can. This is really dense reading, but I hope I'm helping make sense of it. So I hope this helps somebody, because we need to put together some kind of response to this, because the current response, which is please don't take away our freedom of speech, because we need to be able to network with each other, that's obviously under attack 24/7. But I think this is bigger than that. And I see some reasons why it would be good. But you can't really like ITAR the whole internet in the United States. I could see why they'd want to, though. But that's why usually they only ITAR sites and just do the tunneling, make sure the transmissions are secured. This is kind of implying that somehow, like, the cat's out of the bag, the data's out of the bag, like as if secure information, classified information somehow already getting around. Operational security is out. I don't know, maybe the coincidence, like the whole Jade Helm 15 thing, because that's supposed to be operational security, maybe, but then people are putting it on the internet. Just trying to think of like military stuff that they wouldn't want to get out. I don't know. I can't think of I can't think of anything that's not already covered by just common sense ITAR principles. Like not letting anybody foreign in your building if you have government secrets and military secrets and stuff, which are actually more common than you think, because there's a lot of companies that have military contracts that you'd never know, but they have an ITAR logo, and you have to go through about 10 extra layers of scrutiny. It's usually why you have to present your driver's license, for example, because of ITAR. So, I think that's it. I'm rambling. I don't want to ramble. So, thanks for watching, you guys and gals, and hopefully I can clear this up and we can figure out something good to say. Although right now the only thing I can think of to say is please don't try to ITAR the whole entire internet, because that's a huge mistake. That's nor is it even possible. Every attempt to control the internet so far hasn't worked. I don't even want to get into it, and it makes my head hurt thinking about it. So I'm going to cut this video and take a break, and then I will just dig in and see how much of this I can go through. And you guys and gals, I'll get to hear my thought process, and hopefully everybody learns something. So thanks for watching, and look forward to the new one, and hopefully by this evening we'll see. I want to do all of this today, but we'll see. It's huge. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.